The sky above Eloria shimmered like molten silver, streaks of violet and gold weaving through the clouds. The kingdom, perched on jagged cliffs above the endless sea, always felt suspended between reality and dreams. Its towers, carved from obsidian and pale stone, gleamed in the starlight, reflecting the legacy of generations who ruled with wisdom and fear. Tonight, however, the court was uneasy. A rumor had spread like wildfire. Something unknown was coming, something not entirely of this world. Urindor, the young court scribe, had been working late in the dim library. Parchment and ink surrounded him, and the smell of old books filled the air. He loved the quiet nights when the castle seemed almost empty, and he could immerse himself in chronicles of distant lands. But the tranquility shattered when a sound echoed down the corridor, a soft, frantic patter, like tiny feet running, stumbling, and then stopping abruptly. Curiosity overrode caution. Urindor rose, brushing his robes, and stepped into the hallway. There, pressed against the polished stone wall, was a child. She was no more than 8 years old, with hair that shimmered faintly like starlight and eyes that seemed too large for her face. She hid behind him, trembling, her small hands clutching the folds of his cloak. "WH, who are you?" Urindor asked, kneeling to meet her gaze. The words felt inadequate. There was something different about her. Her aura shimmered faintly, almost like a halo of silver light that seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. The child's lips quivered, and then she whispered, "Please, don't let them take me." Yet the fear in her voice was undeniable. Something about it told him she spoke the truth. "Where is your family?" he asked gently. "Your parents." The castle was quiet, too quiet, but the shadows seemed alive, stretching unnaturally across the walls. A cold wind whispered through the corridor, carrying an eerie scent of silvered salt and smoke. Before he could respond, a sharp gasp echoed behind them. Urindor froze and turned. Queen Lysandra herself stood at the entrance of the corridor, her presence commanding yet fragile, as if a single misstep could shatter the aura of authority she always projected. Her eyes widened, not with anger, but something else, something that left Urindor unsettled. The child shrank further behind him. She knows," the girl whispered. The queen's gaze fell on the child, and for the briefest instant her composure faltered. Urindor noticed it immediately, the slightest tremor of her lips, the way her hand hovered near the jeweled hilt of her ceremonial dagger. She recognized the child. "Bring her forward," the queen said softly, but the words lacked conviction. Her voice held a trace of awe and of fear. Urindor hesitated, unsure, but the child, sensing safety in his presence, clutched him tightly. "No, not her, please." Her tiny hands gripped Urindor's cloak as if he were the only anchor in a world that had turned suddenly treacherous. Urindor looked at the queen, searching for guidance. He had known the queen for years, distant, formidable, brilliant, but never had he seen her hesitate. "Urindor," Lysandra said, her voice a whisper now, "protect her. Whatever she carries, it is more than any of us understand." She gestured toward the central hall, the throne room where the guards waited. "We will speak there," she said, and for the first time Urindor noticed a tremor of fear in her eyes. He guided the child cautiously, her small hand trembling in his. They moved through corridors lined with statues of kings and queens long gone, their faces carved in eternal vigilance. Urindor felt the weight of history pressing down on him, and he realized that tonight something monumental was about to unfold. In the throne room, the queen took her seat, her posture regal yet tense. She motioned for the child to come closer, but the girl froze. Urindor stepped in front of her protectively. "You need not fear, little one," Lysandra said. "I have seen the skies change, and I have witnessed prophecies unfold. But you are unlike anything I have seen." He had read of the ancient alien princess in old chronicles, tales that spoke of beauty, tragedy, and a curse that lingered through generations. But the child in front of him, was she truly connected? The child, trembling still, finally spoke. I just ran, I didn't know where to go, and then I saw him," she said, pointing at Urindor. "I hid behind him. He would protect me. This child, she is the key." "They're coming," she whispered. "The shadows, they want me." He had spent his life following rules, documenting events, observing history. But now he was a participant, thrust into a prophecy he did not understand, tasked with protecting a child who was more than human. The child, sensing the gravity of the moment, pressed closer to him. Her small voice trembled. "Please don't let them take me." The child blinked up at Urindor. "Why is she afraid of me?" she asked. "Not you," he said softly. "Of what you could become and what they might do to stop it." Urindor shivered, realizing the night was far from ordinary. He took the child's hand, feeling a strange energy flow between them, binding them in ways he could not yet understand. Tonight, a new chapter had begun, one that would change the fate of kingdoms, the heart of a queen, and the life of a child who had run and hid behind him. And as the first whispers of the approaching darkness touched the edges of the castle, Urindor knew with certainty nothing would ever be the same again. Cliffhanger. Somewhere in the corridors, beyond the flickering torchlight, eyes watched. Shapes moved in the shadows, and the quiet patter of unseen footsteps echoed through the stone halls. The child shivered again. "They're here," she whispered. And before Urindor could respond, the doors of the throne room rattled violently as a chilling wind swept in, carrying the first hint of the danger that would test every bond in the kingdom. The castle was never so quiet as it was after the first storm of whispers. Urindor led the child, whose name he now knew was Leora, through secret passageways behind the throne room. The hallways smelled of ancient stone and candle wax, and shadows clung to every corner like watchful spirits. He felt their weight pressing against him, as though the castle itself understood the importance of the night's events. "Where are we going?" Leora asked softly, her small hand clutching his sleeve. "To a place where you will be safe," Urindor replied, careful not to reveal the fear twisting in his own chest. "The Queen trusts you and me, but not everyone does, not yet." Safe like a home. Leora stepped inside cautiously, her glowing aura reflecting against the stone walls. She turned to Urindor. "Why do they fear me?" "Because," he said carefully, "some fear what they do not understand, and others fear what they remember. And they can sense it." Whispers of the alien child spread like wildfire, mingling with rumors of rebellion, curses, and ancient rivalries. "She is not like any ordinary child," Lysandra said, her voice low but commanding. "I have seen the aura with my own eyes. It is alien, yes, but also filled with something ancient, something we cannot yet name. Majesty, we cannot allow an unknown being, especially one connected to the alien princess, to wander free. Her presence could spark unrest, even war. We must contain her. If we harm her, we may doom ourselves." And now, centuries later, the child had returned to remind her of what she had lost. Back in the secret chamber, Urindor began to learn more about Leora. She was quiet at first, hesitant to reveal anything about herself, but slowly, between whispered conversations, fragments emerged. "My mother, she was not from here," Leora said one evening, her voice barely audible. "She came from the stars. She wanted to protect something important, and then she was gone. The world may not understand shadows like hers or yours, but I will teach you how to stay safe, how to control it. You are not alone." Urindor was patient, but he noticed the intensity in her gaze, the hunger to learn, to master what seemed both gift and burden. Yet, danger never stayed far. Shadows moved differently in the castle now. Guards reported fleeting glimpses of strange figures in the corridors, always vanishing before anyone could reach them. Leora shivered sometimes, her body instinctively reacting to threats invisible to human eyes. One night while practicing her control, Leora paused suddenly. Her eyes glowed faintly, and she whispered, "They are coming again, closer this time. Whatever comes, we face it together." "Do you think my mother ever walked here?" she asked. "Do you think she waited for me?" The wind shifted, unnatural in its intensity, and shadows twisted against the walls. Leora froze, her eyes widening in alarm. Urindor stepped in front of her, instinctively protective. "Who's there?" he called, though no voice answered him. Then he saw it, a figure, fleeting but undeniable, moving through the shadows. Its form was dark, shifting, and its presence radiated cold power. Urindor felt a chill in his bones. "They've found us," he whispered. Leora's hands trembled as she pressed against him. "Urindor, I think they want to take me back," she said, her voice barely audible. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his fear. "No," he said firmly. "Not while I'm here. I promised you I would protect you. And I will. We can survive," he said, though the words rang hollow. Both of them knew this was only the beginning. Later, back in the secret chamber, Leora spoke quietly. Why do they want me?" "Because you are special," he said finally. "And the world fears what it cannot control, but I believe you can be the one to change that." Somewhere deep within the throne room, Queen Lysandra watched from the shadows, her heart torn. She knew the child's presence could save the kingdom, or destroy it. And she also knew that Urindor, with his unwavering loyalty and quiet strength, would play a role she could not yet understand. The night deepened, and the castle slept under the watchful gaze of stars that had seen centuries pass. But in the hidden chamber beneath the library, Urindor and Leora stayed awake, bound together by fate, fear, and a fragile trust. The kingdom above slumbered, unaware that its destiny now rested in the hands of a child who had run and hidden behind a human scribe, and the man who had vowed to keep her safe. Cliffhanger. As dawn approached, a subtle vibration ran through the castle's stones. Leora's eyes widened. "They're here in the walls," she whispered, her voice shaking. And in that instant, a shadow moved across the ceiling, silent and swift, as if the castle itself was warning them. The danger was closer than they could ever imagine. The early morning sun spilled over the obsidian towers of Eloria, but inside the castle, a heavier shadow lingered. The events of the previous night left Urindor restless. He paced the secret chamber where Leora had been hiding, her small frame curled up in the corner, eyes wide and thoughtful. The faint glow of her aura pulsed gently, like the heartbeat of a star trapped in human form. "You can't stay hidden forever," Urindor said, though his voice lacked conviction. He didn't know if he was speaking to himself or to her. "They're searching for you, and sooner or later, they'll find us." "I promise." She stepped inside, her gaze sweeping over Leora and then settling on him. "You've done well to keep her hidden," Lysandra said, her voice low but sharp. "But hiding is not enough. The kingdom will not wait. The factions seeking her will not wait. How can she fight powers she does not understand?" Why me?" The child he had promised to protect was far more than he had ever imagined. She was a bridge between worlds, a spark of hope in a kingdom that had long lived in fear. For the next few days, Urindor and Lysandra worked together to prepare Leora, not with swords or shields, but with knowledge. They told her stories of the alien princess, carefully omitting the horrors that might frighten her. They taught her to sense the energies around her, to recognize the subtle shifts in the castle and the court. But while Leora learned, Urindor could see Lysandra struggling with her own turmoil. There were nights when the queen would vanish into the corridors, returning with eyes distant and haunted. Urindor had learned to respect her silence, though he sensed she carried a heavy secret. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the castle in a reddish-gold glow, Lysandra invited Urindor into the throne room. She closed the doors behind them, leaving only the flickering light of a single candle. "There is something you must know," Lysandra said, her voice trembling slightly. "About me and about the princess. Our bond was a secret, one that could have destroyed kingdoms had it been revealed. Her death, or so we believed, left a void in the kingdom, a curse that lingered in our bloodlines. And now, centuries later, her child has returned. And now that past had returned in the form of a small, frightened child who hid behind him. We cannot allow history to repeat itself," Lysandra said, her voice firm again. "The factions who seek Leora will not stop. They will use her powers for their own ends. And if we fail, the kingdom will fall, and she may be lost forever. I trust you, but trust alone is not enough. You must be prepared for what is to come." Leora's aura pulsed faintly, and Urindor felt the energy in the room thicken, as if the walls themselves were bracing for an approaching storm. It began subtly at first. Footsteps echoed in distant corridors. Shadows moved across the walls where no light should have reached. And then one night it happened, the first direct encounter. Leora had been practicing her control in the hidden chamber when a sudden chill swept through the room. Candles flickered and went out, leaving only the dim glow of her aura. Urindor felt a presence behind him, cold and deliberate. He turned, heart pounding. A figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked and indistinct. Its face was hidden, but its presence radiated power and malice. Leora gasped, pressing close to Urindor. "You cannot hide her forever," the figure said, its voice echoing strangely as if spoken from another dimension. "She belongs to us. Her destiny is not yours to protect. And while I stand, no one will harm her. The factions are growing bolder," she said. "They will not attack openly yet, but we must prepare. Leora must understand the power she carries, and we must ensure she can control it. Otherwise, we cannot protect her." She taught her to focus her energy, to sense others' intentions, and to shield herself when danger approached. The lessons were difficult, but Leora's determination shone through. Urindor watched her progress, pride mingled with unease. The child was learning quickly, but so too was the danger growing. He realized that training Leora was not just about controlling her power, it was about preparing her for a world that would never be gentle. One evening, after a long day of practice, Leora approached him quietly. "Urindor, do "Do you think my mother would be proud of me?" she asked, her voice trembling with vulnerability. He knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. "I am sure she would," he said softly. "You are brave and kind and strong, and you are not alone anymore. We are here with you." Somewhere beyond the walls, forces gathered, waiting for the moment to strike. The calm of the hidden chamber was fragile, a thin veneer over a world ready to erupt. That night, as the three of them, Erendor, Leora, and Lysandra, watched the stars from the hidden garden, a quiet tension hung in the air. The child's aura glimmered softly, a delicate thread of light in the dark. Erendor knew that the next steps they took would determine the fate of kingdoms, the legacy of the alien princess, and the fragile bonds they were beginning to form. Cliffhanger. As the wind shifted through the garden, carrying the scent of distant seas and smoke, Leora suddenly stiffened. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, and she whispered in a voice not entirely her own, "They're here, inside the castle." In that instant, a shadow flickered across the stone walls, moving with purpose and intent. The child's small hand shot into Erendor's, and he felt the pulse of a power far greater than anything he had ever imagined. The storm was coming, and there would be no hiding from it. The moon hung low over Eloria, casting a pale silver glow across the castle towers. Shadows stretched unnaturally in the corridors, moving with a life of their own. The castle had never felt so alive or so dangerous. Every stone, every archway seemed to hum with an energy that whispered of things long buried. Erendor paced the hidden chamber where Leora had been practicing. Her aura glimmered softly, illuminating the walls in gentle silver light. For days, she had been learning to control her strange abilities, guided by Lysandra's careful instruction and Erendor's unwavering support. But tonight, something felt different. The air was thick, almost heavy, as if the very castle held its breath. Leora's small frame trembled slightly as she focused, trying to maintain the control she had learned. "Erendor," she whispered, her voice edged with uncertainty. "I can feel it, the shadows. They are close, too close. Breathe." And now, centuries later, that curse was stirring, drawn by the child's presence. Before he could respond, a sudden gust of wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing the candlelight. The room plunged into darkness, save for Leora's glowing aura. Shadows twisted along the walls, forming shapes that seemed almost alive. Erendor felt a chill run down his spine. "They are here," Leora said, her voice barely audible. From the shadows, a figure emerged, shifting, dark, and impossible to see clearly. It radiated a cold power that made the hair on Erendor's arms stand on end. The air itself seemed to warp around it, as if the castle feared its presence. "You cannot hide her any longer," the figure said, its voice echoing strangely like whispers from another world. "She belongs to the curse. She cannot escape. And while I stand, no one will harm her. We need to understand the curse and how to protect you from it." "You must understand your power," Lysandra said one evening, her voice firm but patient. "The curse is drawn to fear, to doubt. If you allow it to take hold of your mind, it will control you. But if you master yourself, you can control it, and perhaps even break it." Her determination was palpable, though the weight of her responsibility pressed heavily on her young shoulders. Erendor watched her progress with a mixture of pride and concern. The child's strength was extraordinary, but the danger surrounding her was growing. One night, as the three of them, Erendor, Leora, and Lysandra, stood in the hidden garden, a strange tension gripped the air. The flowers glowed softly under the moonlight, their colors more vivid than usual, and the wind carried whispers that seemed almost intelligible. "They are coming," Leora whispered, her eyes glowing brighter. "Closer than ever." Figures emerged from the darkness, several cloaked individuals, their faces hidden, moving with an unnatural fluidity. They advanced silently, their presence radiating malice and intent. Erendor stepped in front of Leora. "Stay behind me," he said, drawing a small blade for protection. He had never faced anything like this before, not just human danger, but beings that seemed to exist between worlds. The figures paused, as if assessing the situation. Leora focused, her aura flaring brightly, creating a protective barrier around them. The cloaked figures hissed, recoiling slightly from the light, but did not retreat. "They will not stop," Leora whispered, her voice trembling. "I know," Erendor said firmly. "Then neither will we. And we will fight to protect her. You are stronger than you think. And remember, you are not alone." And while Leora trained, she began to sense not only the danger but also the deep care and loyalty of those around her. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of crimson and gold, Leora approached Erendor. Urindor, what if I can't control it? What if the curse takes me? We will never let it take you. You are stronger than the curse, Leora, and you have us to guide you. From deep within the walls came a soft, almost imperceptible sound, a whisper like the echo of voices long gone. Leora's eyes widened. "They're here," she said, her voice trembling. Urindor felt a chill run through him. "Get ready," he said. "We face this together, no matter what comes." Its form was shifting and indistinct, but its power radiated in waves that made the air itself quiver. Leora stepped forward instinctively, her aura flaring brightly, creating a shield that shimmered like silver glass. The figure hissed, recoiling slightly from her light. "You cannot resist forever," it said, voice echoing strangely as if spoken from another world. "The curse is your destiny. She belongs to it." Leora let out a shaky breath, and Urindor held her close, whispering reassurances. Lysandra joined them, her eyes thoughtful. "The curse awakens," she said quietly. "It is testing her, testing all of us, but it will not prevail if we remain united. We must be vigilant. And we must prepare for what comes next." And as the wind carried whispers through the castle halls, Urindor knew the final confrontation was drawing near. The curse would awaken fully, and the bonds they had forged would be tested like never before. But he also knew one thing: they would face it together, no matter the cost. Cliffhanger, deep within the castle walls, a shadow moved with intent. Eyes that glowed like embers watched the hidden chamber where Leora slept. A voice, cold and distant, whispered a single word that made Urindor's blood run cold. "Soon." The castle of Eloria trembled under the weight of the approaching storm. The wind howled through the towers, carrying whispers of shadows and magic long thought dormant. Stars shimmered coldly above, their light flickering like distant promises, as if the heavens themselves were holding their breath. Urindor stood at the edge of the hidden chamber, gazing at Leora. She had grown stronger in the days since the curse had begun to stir, her aura pulsing brightly, a steady silver light in the darkness. Beside her, Queen Lysandra's eyes were sharp, fierce with resolve, and tempered by centuries of regret. "It begins tonight," Lysandra said, her voice steady but carrying the weight of fear. "The forces that seek her have gathered. If we are to protect her, we must act. There will be no turning back." "I will do my best." Urindor drew a deep breath, the blade in his hand glinting faintly in the dim light. Lysandra raised her hands, energy sparking faintly around her fingertips, a luminous shield of silver and violet forming around them. From the darkness emerged figures cloaked in shifting shadows, their forms almost unreal. They advanced silently, radiating a chilling power that bent the very air around them. Leora stepped forward instinctively, her aura flaring brilliantly, a protective sphere surrounding them. "You cannot escape your fate, child," a voice hissed from the shadows. "The curse will claim you. And no shadow, no curse, no power in this world will take her from us." "You have strength beyond your years," Lysandra said quietly, almost to herself. "But now you must trust it completely." It sought to awaken her, to test her, to see if she could wield the power rather than be consumed by it. Urindor stepped closer, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "Focus on me, Leora," he said softly, "and remember, you are not alone." Light radiated outward, forming a barrier that shimmered like silver glass. The shadows collided with it, hissing and twisting, unable to penetrate. "Good," Lysandra said, her voice firm. "Now take it further, control the energy, bend it to your will." The shadows shrieked, their forms twisting and fracturing under the force. Urindor and Lysandra joined their energies with hers, a fusion of human courage, royal wisdom, and alien legacy, creating a wall of light that radiated across the castle grounds. The largest shadow hesitated, as if sensing the combined strength before it. "This cannot be," it hissed. "She is only a child." Leora collapsed onto the ground, exhausted but unhurt. Urindor knelt beside her immediately, brushing a lock of hair from her glowing face. "You did it," he said softly. "You controlled it. You saved us all. The curse, it tested you, but you are its master, not its victim." For the first time since her arrival, Leora felt truly safe. The curse had been challenged, the shadows defeated, and the bond between them strengthened. But even in victory, Lysandra's thoughts remained on the future. "The threat is not gone forever," she said quietly. "There will be others, and the balance of power in Eloria has shifted, but now we are stronger. And so are you, Leora." A new chapter had begun, not just for Leora, but for all of Eloria. The kingdom had faced darkness and survived, and in doing so discovered a strength it had never known. Urindor and Lysandra walked with Leora through the castle halls, their bond strengthened by the trials they had faced together. There was a quiet understanding between them. The past had been reconciled, the present protected, and the future uncertain but full of promise. "You have done more than survive," Lysandra said softly. "You have transformed fear into strength, and in doing so, you have given all of us hope." "I will do my best," she said firmly. "I will not hide anymore. I will face the world, and I will protect those who cannot protect themselves, no matter what comes." As they reached the highest tower of the castle, Leora looked out over the kingdom, her eyes reflecting the sunlight dancing on the sea. She had survived the curse, faced the shadows, and discovered the power within herself. And for the first time, she felt a sense of purpose, a clarity that had been missing since her arrival. Urindor placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her as they watched the horizon. "This is just the beginning," he said. "There will be challenges, yes, but together, nothing can break us. And now we can shape it with courage, wisdom, and love." As the three stood together, bathed in sunlight, the castle walls whispered ancient secrets. The wind carried songs of hope, and the stars, still visible in the fading night, shimmered as if blessing their new beginning. The storm had passed, but the promise of the future stretched endlessly before them, filled with light, courage, and the bonds they had forged in the heart of darkness. Final cliffhanger. High above, the sky shifted slightly, an ethereal glow flickering in the distance. A new prophecy began to take form, whispering on the wind, a reminder that Leora's story was far from over. Somewhere beyond the mountains, a presence stirred, watching the child who had faced shadows and survived. And though the castle was safe, for now, the adventure and the mysteries of her alien legacy were only beginning.